Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the A-Side. I am your host, Riley, and today we're here with a new reaction to a brand new Radiohead song, If You Say the Word. Now, about a week or two ago now, on my Black Country New Road reaction, I had the viewer Shiv ask me, can you do a Radiohead reaction? And Radiohead is a band I'm actually extremely familiar with. If you've been here a while, you know I ranked their albums earlier on in this channel's lifespan. I am a huge Radiohead fan. I talk about them all the time. They're one of my favorite bands, and I actually own their entire discography on vinyl. But they just announced a kind of box set for the anniversary of Kid A and Amnesiac, entitled Kid Amnesia, and there's going to be like a third album of like outtakes and B-sides and uncut songs. So I'm under the impression that If You Say the Word is a song from the Kid A era just now being released. So yeah, but before we get into the reaction, if you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later if you want. And leave a like if you like this video. Why not, man? Anyway, I'm very excited to hear this. Kid A is one of my favorite albums of all time. I love the electronic, kind of cold sounds of it, so I'm excited to see what this sounds like, whether it's going to be more Kid A-esque or more Amnesiac-esque, neither of which of being a bad thing. I adore both of those albums, but... Okay, it's definitely sounding very Kid A-y right off the bat. That intro reminds me a lot of, the noise at the beginning of the title track on Kid A, or some of like the background noise you hear on the national anthem, even some of the vibes of like Tree Fingers, immediately. Oh, but now it's sounding more Amnesiac, I think, with the pianos and the kind of spacey vibes, and not spacey as in outer space, but spacey as in it feels like there's a lot of space in the mix, like a lot of open space. It sounds awesome, though. I love all these electronic sounds they're playing with. Imagine if this would have come out in 2000. I mean, it sounds wild now, let alone 21 years ago. Alright. This just immediately sets him with the vibes of those two records. Honestly, I think somewhere in between the two. It's definitely leaning more toward the Amnesiac vibes, but I'm getting for sure the Kid A feels kind of with some of the experimentation here. I like the echo on his voice and on the drums here. It makes it feel like cold and have that open space and like the mix and the sound. It's an interesting sound for sure. I think I could have seen this fitting in on Amnesiac, even on Kid A. The guitar here, whatever they're doing with it, it's so like wobbly and almost sounds like it's like submerged in water. But it sounds really cool. I think it's really pretty and interesting sounding. I mean, Radiohead's always doing something cool. I think even on their worst albums, they're still a cool band. Yeah, even that album. It's definitely not as strong as the cuts on Kid A. And it's stronger, I think, than some of the cuts on Amnesia. That was a really cool, like, moment of climax, crescendo, a little explosion of sound. I wasn't actually... Ooh. The Glockenspiel reminds me of, like, OK Computer. And, No Surprises. That's a really cool touch. change your friends like you're changing your clothes. So that definitely fits in with some of the topics of like what they were talking about in that era. Technology and stuff, and how isolation starts to happen, and how kind of humans become more disingenuous. And I mean, amnesiac, they forget who they are. So they change their friends like they change their clothes because this modern era and postmodernism is kind of failing us as a society and losing kind of that genuine personality that these people have, and they're just changing their friends to fit whatever trend's going on or to be with whoever is like more popular in the age. And I feel like Tom York was very prophetic in those days, kind of predicting a lot of like technology in the social media era on OK Computer, Kid A, and Amnesiac. I feel like he was very prophetic in what he had to say, and I think that's why those albums then were so amazing and have just gotten even more amazing over time, because now we go back in the year 2021 and listen to something like OK Computer or something like Kid A, where it seems like the technology is like completely taking over, and we look at that and we see that happening now, living in a world of social media and clout chasers and all of this stuff. I think it's really makes the music very interesting. So yeah, and that's a really cool dynamic about Radiohead. I think is that their music really has so many different sounds. I mean, you've got the cold, lifeless sounds of Kid A that sound amazing, especially on vinyl, and really reflect kind of the themes of the album in a way. But then you have an album that's so full of life and feels so warm and inviting, like In Rainbows. And that album is all about, you know, the human life and the human experience and living and trying to live to the fullest and the experiences that come with life and death. So of course the album is going to feel warm and full of life, whereas an album like Kid A is going to be cold and lifeless. And I just think that's really, Radiohead is such a genius band, one of the greatest bands of all time for something like that. And those are just my two examples, but you could probably go in kind of any direction and dive into any album, at least post Bends, even on the Bends. Like Fake Plastic Trees is so sorrowful, and it really kind of reflects the sorrow that Tom York has. Now, that's not as much of a big, like, grand conceptual idea as, like, a Kid A or an In Rainbows, but you can see, like, the seeds being planted in those early days, and then just growing into records like Kid A, Amnesiac, In Rainbows, OK Computer, A Moon-Shaped Pool. So, yeah, that's my little rant. I guess I'll get back to listening to the song. I really should review the album separately at some point. I have a whole review written out for OK Computer I wrote years before this channel existed, so... It's just a nice sound, honestly. I think it's just a great Radiohead song as always. I definitely see why it wasn't released, why it wasn't on the albums, but it's a very stellar B-side, especially here at this huge kind of blissful explosion of sound where the song really hits a crescendo and just explodes into your ears and the goodness you get from it. Very good. Very good. That was a great song. Um, and that was Pavement. Um, that was a really good song, a really interesting song. Doing some cool stuff. I don't think it necessarily stacks up to a lot of the stuff that was on Kid A, Amnesiac, and that kind of era. I see why it was kind of relegated to an unreleased kind of rarity and B-side, but I'm glad they're releasing these songs and stuff like that now, and I'm definitely excited to check out the kind of Kid Amnesia project that's going to be along with the Kid A and Amnesiac remasters coming later this year. Definitely interesting to hear that. I'm glad Radiohead's doing more stuff and to see them active again, and maybe we'll get an entirely original body of work soon, which would be nice. I would love LP10. Yeah. Anyway, just another great Radiohead song. One of my favorite bands. I mean, I talk about them all the time in my videos, and I've gotten shit for it, actually, for kind of comparing a lot of bands' lyrical prowess to a band like Radiohead. but I mean, Tom York is one of the all-time greatest lyricists and kind of conceptual minds in music in general. And I think it's a band that really changed my life and changed the way I perceived music for the better, and kind of really broadened my horizons and just have blown me away consistently since the first time I heard OK Computer years ago now. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I remember looking out the window, watching the snow come down on the day of one of my friend's Halloween parties, actually, listening to OK Computer for the first time. And now whenever I hear the opening strings of Airbag, I associate it with that because it left. I associate it with snow falling because it left such an impression on me in that moment. Because Radiohead truly is one of the greatest bands of all time. Anyway, this is more of a love letter to Radiohead than a reaction to the new song, but any excuse to talk about Radiohead, I'll take it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.